Well, I would hate to disappoint the people. So do you want me to just start off?
You go with whatever you want.
Okay. So let's start here. The events of the last 24 hours are actually good for the Boston Celtics. This was actually good for the Boston Celtics. They were going to be in a financial hell. They were going to have to try their best with the Kristaps Porzingis, who we're literally watching die on the vine like a grape, like a nasty, like shriveling grape. He's bad and is bad. I thought he had 2 years left. He only has 1 year left after this year, so he's an expiring contract. I think by losing Jason Tatum, the Celtics are going to have a prime opportunity to pivot into the next iteration of the team around Jason Tatum without feeling the need to compete. And they were going to get a three full transaction cycles to make that transition without having to worry or about how it looks, about how the optics of everything.
About competing next season.
So it's not ideal. I would not like for my 27-year-old superstar to lose a season in his prime, and sometimes an injury where it's like a little bit, are you going to be good later on down the line? However, I don't want to say good. There is a substantial silver lining here, like a substantial one. Okay, first of all, there's that. Okay, that's for the future though. That's for the future. Here's the other thing. Here's the other substantial silver lining. The Boston Celtics now have the opportunity to do the funniest thing in the history of the NBA, which is win this series anyway.
So they come back, they win the series without Jason Tatum.
Yes.
And then they go into their transition year after putting up a valiant fight against the Indiana Pacers in the next round, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think Indiana gets us back in the exact same way we got them, like a very competitive, like 4-game sweep at the hands of the Indiana Pacers.
This series is over, dude. I mean, the Knicks, even if Tatum was healthy, I would feel very confident in the Knicks winning this series after last night.
Oh, were they up 9 points when Jason Tatum went down? Because no Knicks fans brought that up.
There was 3 minutes left in the game, but it's not.
They were up 9.
We were watching the game together, and you were literally saying if it was a close game, they were going to lose, and then they were down 9 with 3 minutes.
Right, but that's the perfect position, because if it's like you're just trading buckets, the Celtics are good at like pulling it out at the like.
You can't be ahead by too much, because then you'll choke the lead. But if you're behind, you're playing with house money. I'm
like not even doing a bit. That is like 100% how the Boston Celtics work. Like 9 was probably a little bit too much. Okay, 9 in 3 minutes. That's probably a little bit, but like 5. That's like perfect kill zone era is like 5 points down. The Celtics. So, look, here's what I'll say about the Knicks. The Celtics kind of got what they deserved for fucking playing with their food. I think
I've never heard the term playing with their food in a series where they're down 3-1.
This is what I'm saying though. Like the Knicks, this series is probably going to be over in 5 games with a pretty good chance for the Celtics to be like +6 in the series when it ends. Maybe 4-5. Like
it's possible because they won game 3 by a lot. Sure.
But this is just what I'm saying. I mean, they lost like every game, like we were saying before. Like this was a very the results bias like on this series early was like very hard, but this is also
we talked about it. We talked about it on the Patreon episode where we were like, you don't fuck around and lose 2 games and come back and win a series. Like there's a reason why that's only happened in us. And once again, like you said, they fucked around, they found out. And now it's obviously like it's small potatoes compared to what you're actually dealing with, which is your best player getting hurt at a part of the season where There's going to be a lot of conversation around this. We've kind of talked about it on the last few episodes about how it feels like basketball is becoming more and more like a blood sport where the pace, the schedule, the minutes load, the body, just the complete physical toll on these guys' bodies over the course of an 82 game regular season into the playoffs, with the speed at which they play, with the amount that they play, which ramping it up for the playoffs, with the physicality of the playoffs, with the endurance level required. I mean, Jason Tatum's been an Iron Man. He's been one of the symbols of great health in the NBA for the last 6 or 7 years. He doesn't miss games. And now you have one of the few players with, I think Mikal Bridges is probably the only one that people think of more, who's clearly a few tiers below Tatum as a player. And it just feels like we're going to have less and less of that as time goes on, just due to the fact that the nature of the game nowadays is built for way more injuries. And look, for a league that builds itself on stars, it's not great if all the stars. Like, I mean, look, Joel was one thing, because he was always kind of a little bit of a ticking time bomb. He's a big man. He had injuries from before he came into the league, but his injury last year combined with, how many big injuries have we had since really, I feel like the whole thing started with the KD injury in 2019.
Yeah.
I would say this is the most impactful injury since the KD injury.
I think in terms of having a bearing on like championship
contendership.
Yeah.
A team in the middle of their title window who is fresh off a championship is competing in the second round. By the way, I do think the other factor is the fact that the defending champion is not going to make it past the second round once again. That is another factor that's built into all of this. Is like we're now seeing 5 straight years where that team doesn't even get to the conference finals the next year. It might even be longer than that. I don't think Toronto got to the conference finals, so I think it's 6 years at this point.
Yeah,
it is crazy that we've had so much of these injuries, which obviously leads to a ton of parity. These teams that we thought really had no chance at winning the championship before. When we did our rankings before, a few of the teams we struggled with were the Wolves, the Knicks, and the Nuggets. Where we were like, with the Knicks, we were like, their talent is just like, they should be better than this, but they're not. So we kind of wrote them off.
Yeah.
The Nuggets, you pointed out, you're like, if a team has Jokic, they have a chance, which they're obviously still in it. Yep. And then the other team being the Minnesota Timberwolves, which
they're the Joker. They're the Joker.
They're the wild card, and they also got probably the best path out of any team. They're a very legitimate conference finals team, possibly even finals team. I'm not denying that. But they also got the ideal path for them in terms of matchups with the old, slow, not deep Lakers team. And then you get the Warriors with Steph and whatever. There's a lot of factors that come into this. Steph is also injured right now. But long story short on all of this, let's hold off on the Celtics, what they do from here conversation, because I want to talk about the draft lottery first.
Well, can I want to finish because I said playing with your food. I just want to, when I say playing with the food, the last thing I wanted to say is because the Knicks have gotten better as this series went along. You had a real opportunity to stomp their throat in.
Sure.
Like, early on, they were not playing well in game one.
Once they choked game two, I mean, that was where I was like,
this is what I'm saying. Yeah, game two, the Celtics were also playing bad, but the Knicks were actually playing good defense. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the Knicks have gotten stronger as this series has gone along. Leading up to game four, I thought the Celtics were actually like playing.
They've gotten more confident. Well. They know they can hang. They're never out of a game.
Pretty well. Obviously, I was having my tantrum last night about the offensive process, but as Dredd, came up and said, Tatum was still having like one of his best, probably his greatest like playoff.
2.5, 3 quarters. He was unbelievable in that game.
Yeah. Got one of his greatest days. And it is the process stuff is just such a pet peeve of mine when it comes to Jason Tatum, because when Jason Tatum's hitting everything, it's awesome. But then was it Mahoney, whoever Bill had on? No, maybe it was Jay Kyle, man, was like pointing out that like a lot of like Tatum's shots were not good. He just like hit them all. Like he's just shooting over Cat. It was like a pretty good contested thing. And this is my point. D-Bronx beat me to it. They are a little bit you called this forever ago, Trill, and I laughed at you. They are the heir apparent to the devil magic. The pizza pizza rat mode is here. Like
the pizza rat Knicks.
Yeah, the pizza rat Knicks are here. They a lot of credit, like look, even if Tatum didn't get hurt, there's a pretty good chance we're still down 3-1. Do credit to the Knicks, who genuinely have gotten better as this series has gone along. I went from disrespecting them, and I feel correctly, in game 1, to them playing a lot better in game 2, to them genuinely like beating the Celtics, not at like full strength, because Porzingis is whatever the fuck's going on with Porzingis, but that doesn't matter. That's, you beat who's in front of you. They genuinely like beat the Celtics with their own good game, like in game 4, which is pretty impressive.
So I believe the Knicks are 6-2 since we did the reverse jinx when we had Noah Colwyn on to talk about the Knicks.
Yeah.
I've been saying, and once again, everyone has accused me of overrating the Knicks because they've been good against the Sixers the last few years. But I think the teams that succeed against the Sixers are the teams that tend to do well in the playoffs. The Celtics, the Heat, the Knicks, the teams that are physical, that have a ton of guys that, first off, the thing that has absolutely paid off for the Knicks is the fact that they have a ton of guys who can create extra possessions with rebounding. They have legit athleticism on the wing. Their vision for this team build looked shaky for most of this season, and they probably said to themselves, let's see how it looks in the playoffs before we make any sort of drastic moves. And regardless of injury luck, regardless of whatever, they have a real chance to win the title this year.
Well, this is why I feel stupid, because I was willing. One of my big beliefs is that the playoffs are completely different from the regular season. And I think it's a huge mistake that we make every time, tying so much equity to like what the regular season looks like. And what threw me with this Knicks team was how hard of a time they had with the Detroit Pistons. Maybe the Pistons are like also just good.
Well, the Pistons have athleticism on the wing, physicality, a legit lead creator. They have a little bit. They're basically like a similar team build to the Knicks, but much worse. It's essentially, I mean, they don't have a stretch 5 like Cat. That changes the dimensions of the court and stuff. But
Duren was kind of their Mitchell Robinson in that series, though, like where he was kind of dominating them on the glass, so it's.
I think that everyone is getting ahead of themselves when they're trying to project future matchups in this. I don't know how you could watch these playoffs and be like, oh, this team's definitely going to beat that team next round. We don't know anything.
We have no idea.
We're fucking clueless at this point. This year every piece of information should be thrown out the fucking window, because we're using a sample size from the regular season that is clearly almost entirely irrelevant. Because we have 3 teams that have won 60 plus games that might lose before the conference finals. There's never even become a close time. I don't care about injuries. I don't care about random luck. I don't care about whatever. That has never happened.
Has 2 60-win teams ever even happened? Because
I highly doubt it.
The Thunder, I think, are going to get away with it. I would be surprised if the Thunder lose.
The 2 main teams I think about that were 60-win teams. So there's 3 from recent memory. There's the Suns of a few years ago, who were clutch merchants that won every single close game because of Chris Paul and Devin Booker making tough shots in regulation. There was the Bucks Budenholzer teams that were built to win regular season games that lost in the second round of the bubble. And then there was the Atlanta Hawks, but the Atlanta Hawks made the conference finals in a weak East that year. They got destroyed by the LeBron Cavs. But long story short on all of this, it just feels like we're over-indexing what we actually know. Like it feels like if these series stay chalk, or let's just say these series go, it doesn't matter who wins these. Like if the underdogs that are up 3-1 right now win the series, I think they were all underdogs coming into the series. If they all win these series, I think any of these teams can win the championship. Like, I'm literally just throwing my hands up at this point, because I felt pretty confident about what I knew going into these playoffs, and I've just been proven wrong time and time again. But anyway, we'll get back to that. But we'll get back to the Celtics and where they go from here in a little bit.
Someone was asking about the Utah Jazz, if they ever won 60 games. They were 52-20 in the post-COVID year, which is, I think, if not 60-win pace, very close. It's a 72.2 win percentage. So
I can't even, with Twitter right now blaming Donovan Mitchell for Donovan Mitchell never made a conference finals. He's basically going to become the new Joel Embiid, but like
he's the most innocent guy.
He's averaging 40.
Scared of. I'm so scared. If you've ever played against him, you're like so scared of him. That's how I knew the Pacers were good, by the way, because like
he was averaging 46 and 6 through 3 games.
Yeah. It is like Donovan Mitchell there's never been a more innocent like slander target than Donovan Mitchell. Like I was slandering him on the Jazz, but like having like played him like a few times, like he's legit. That's a legit guy. Yeah.
I really am just dumbfounded by the fact that everyone was piling up on him, but you know, that's just kind of the day like I said, everyone, even before the Tatum injury, everyone was piling on Tatum. Jokic sucks now. SGA sucks. Donovan Mitchell sucks. Tyrese Halliburton. Everyone sucks, apparently.
Yeah.
So if Jalen Brunson gets the team to the finals and then they lose in the finals, he sucks too, I guess.
I was gonna say you can't even get injured without catching slander anymore. Somebody put Paul Pierce in the wheelchair next to Tatum getting wheeled off and said, "Is there anything this guy does that isn't original?" Like I was like, "Come on, man."
Paul Pierce didn't even get injured.
He didn't get injured. Yeah, I think that was what they were trying to say was that Tatum wasn't injured. But whoops.
Even though it was pretty instantly obvious, we were trying to deny it at first, and then after we rewatched it, we're like, "Oh no, that's literally the same thing that just happened to Dame 2 weeks ago when he tore his Achilles."
Clear. I never. There was some people who were like trying to cope, like, well, maybe it's an ankle, and like looking at the wording of like some of the like Shams's report, where it's like they're looking at his foot and lower leg. Guys, it is the most. That is the most Achilles injury that's ever Achilles.
Yeah, once they showed the replay and you could see that he didn't turn his ankle at all and it was just a hyperextension, I was like, oh, this is 100% the same. It's the same exact thing when it's always a loose ball, offensive rebound, something in that realm that leads to these like sudden change of movement that leads to a Achilles. But we got to talk about the draft lottery because I'm still in shock. Almost 24 hours later on what we witnessed last night. I mean, this has been 2025. This 3 months, the funniest arc in the history of the NBA. We have Nico Harrison. Nico Harrison has been through an actual roller coaster this year. He was the villain of the NBA for a 3-month period, and he gets rewarded with Cooper Flagg, the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. In a draft that it feels like as we get closer, I feel like he's the only sure thing in this draft.
For sure.
Like there will be good players. Obviously, every draft has good players, but like if we're talking about like true star bets with extremely safe floors, there's not much better prospects in Cooper Flagg. To get this government bailout from the NBA is just, it's absurd, dude.
So did you see like probably 20 minutes before we came on, Ringer posted a Russillo clip where it's Russillo talking to Mannix, and Mannix is saying it's impossible for the NBA draft to be rigged. And there's never been a greater piece of counter evidence that the NBA lottery is rigged than having Mannix go up there and say it's impossible to rig the NBA draft lottery. I don't think Mannix has object permanence. So I think like literally, I'm literally not kidding. One of the ways he describes about how it's impossible for it to be rigged is because the guy with the stopwatch has his back to the machine. So there's no way he could see what's going on.
What?
It's literally like the toddler, like it's literally like the object, but like peekaboo, like where did my mom go?
Like I don't even understand what is the argument there? What does that mean?
Because he's what he's trying to do, like, because he's being hyperbolic, but he's trying to explain. For most people who don't understand how the draft works, he's explaining all the steps, like that there's a ping pong machine. The person taking the things out doesn't decide when they take things out. It's called out by a guy with a stopwatch who has his back to the machine and like does it every 10 seconds, puts his hands up to make them go pick a ball. And it's like, okay, the extremely easy thing is there's something fucked up with the machine. like that would be how you would do it. Like, Now, I don't know, I don't know how realistic. I mean, we're all kind of joking, but like
ultimately, I look, I'll say they rigged it. There's no piece of information you can give me. They probably didn't rig the actual draft lottery, but to say that it's impossible to rig it is just objectively not true.
I'm sorry. It's probably not rigged, but like you can't say that it's impossible for it to do that. It would be pretty easy for them to do that.
No. If they wanted to, they could do whatever the fuck they wanted in the NBA draft. They could determine these things if they really want to.
I gotta say, shout out to our boy Joe House, who was kind of cooking. I don't know if you listened to Bill. House actually had a pretty good thing where he was talking about like LeBron leaving Cleveland. They get Kyrie. Like he laid out. There are a lot of really weird ones. Like the
Bulls with Rose is the most obvious.
The Bulls with Rose, Anthony Davis when the team was still owned and they by the NBA and they were trying to sell the team. Anthony Davis gets traded to the Lakers. They get Zion. There's so many.
Patrick Ewing to the Knicks is the original OG the original frozen envelope. But the thing I just want to say about that.
Yeah.
If the Spurs got it, will we be having the same conversation? Because they were basically right there.
I think the same thing about Wemby.
What do you mean?
I think that one was rigged for him to go to the Spurs.
But this is where it starts to lose me a little bit because it's like, okay, then any team getting a good player makes it rigged.
No, just the Spurs are the fucking
darling.
No, the plausible deniability. They're the limited hangout small market team for the fucking NBA. They're like a good franchise.
That one's such a stretch to me. I know that they're.
I don't know.
I think it's such a stretch to me because look, I know that they've had like a great brand for the NBA and stuff, but if it was like this feels like more blatantly obvious if they were to rig it. Cooper Flagg, the Dallas Mavericks, laughing stock of the NBA, just gifted a potential generationally offensive player in his prime to the Los Angeles Lakers, who are the high watermark for the NBA in terms of sales, in terms of jerseys, in terms of viewership. Bro, anytime we post anything about the Lakers, our views skyrocket. I think our biggest episode that isn't like a concept episode is literally when we had Harrison on to talk about the Lakers end of the Luka trade. Like,
that's just Harrison's juice, actually.
Obviously. But attaching the Lakers to something makes your shit go up. Yeah. And they had no way to bail themselves out of the current situation they're in, except for hand wrapping them a star like Luka in his prime, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the Mavericks a few months, like that's just different than the Spurs to me.
Like, I mean, it is different.
It's like the Spurs were just a bad team. The Mavericks had the 11th best odds or 12th best odds.
Here's my thing.
The Spurs had the second or third best odds.
Here's my thing with the Wemby thing, though. Everyone knew Wemby was like a generational prospect, and everyone said this is like the best prospect we've had since LeBron or Duncan, and he wanted to go to the Spurs. He said that beforehand. And like we've been over the odds, it's like a 12% chance of like him going there because the other options were like the fucking Hornets. The Hornets haven't won at any point in this time.
Other team he didn't want to go to.
Like you know what I'm saying? The Rockets were number 2. Yeah, and he's celebrated. Like I just Pistons. You know what I'm saying? Like Cade got so. And Cade was like a good prospect. He is not in the same caliber as like Flagg and Wemby and Zion and these other, like it is. I just think it's interesting that when it's these generational prospects, these guys go to whatever the most appealing franchise is of those like top ones. I think Oklahoma City Thunder is probably the biggest negative test case because they probably don't want.
They've never gotten the first pick. But they're so good at figuring out who the best or second best player in the draft is.
Yeah.
And they've also had some luck too. The Odin Durant thing, they were still in Seattle at the time, but like,
right.
But speaking of Chris Mannix, here's my favorite Chris Mannix tweet ever. Ready?
Okay.
The easiest prediction in the world is Ben Simmons comes back, plays 65-ish games next season, and someone hands him a 3-year, $90 million contract. Calling that one right now. Contract years are real.
Amazing.
Shout out to Chris Mannix, dude. That's awesome.
Who would you rather take right now, Brad Stevens or Giannis Antetokounmpo? If you're building a team tomorrow,
That was Bontemps.
Was it Bontemps?
I think it was Bontemps.
Oh no, was it really?
Yeah.
Shoot. Oh, I hate to do that to that guy.
Yeah, no, that's
okay. Well, hold on. Pivot. Actually,
GM Brad Stevens.
That one's coming back around.
Would you rather have GM Brad Stevens or Giannis?
Everyone's saying it was Mannix. Okay, good.
Oh, it was? I thought it was Bontemps.
No, okay.
Oh, no. Okay, so Bontemps had a follow-up tweet to that was like, everyone made fun of him for this, but I had to seriously think about it.
Okay.
And then he picked Giannis. I think that was what I'm remembering.
Okay. All right. Thank God. I was like, did I really put my boy? Because did I really put my boy Bontemps in the Mannix zone? Because that's disrespectful of me. Yeah, but no. Yeah. Okay. Thank God.
But the draft stuff. Yes. Just thinking about the Mavericks as the team to get Cooper Flagg right now, funniest, one of the funniest outcomes, only because you have Kyrie next year who's out of the picture. Their best players are all front court players. Once again, we talked about how weird this team is because the thing about Flagg is that he works anywhere. He could play on pretty much any team.
I think he could play shooting guard. I think he could play shooting guard, like straight up.
He's going to be a 3 or a 4 in the NBA, probably a 4. Right. And he could play multiple positions. He makes everything work because he's just so well-rounded and good at all of the things. He's such an archetype that everyone is always looking for in the NBA that he can just make teams work. But going to a team like the Mavericks that has, and the reason I said that it would even work on the Raptors is because the Raptors are just, they have talent, but they're just, the fit is all over the place. It makes no fucking sense.
Yeah.
And the thing with this team is that now, are they going to... All right, so this either goes one of two ways. Either Anthony Davis goes back to playing center and Flagg is the 4 and Lively comes off the bench, or Flagg is a 3 and their front court is Flagg, Anthony Davis, Lively, and then PJ Washington comes off the bench. They have to make trades, I feel like.
I feel like Lively or Gafford. They probably want to keep Lively because Flagg's a good like lob thrower and like they're kind of going to grow together.
Well, if you want to,
funny they need to fucking trade to the Lakers. It's the Lakers and trying to get Austin Reeves would be
the Lively for Austin Reeves trade makes sense now.
Yes, which is very funny.
It makes both teams better. I feel like
it does. Yeah, they probably like wouldn't do that just because like Lively's like more on the time. Well, then again, though, everything fucking Bozo Nico is doing is I shouldn't say Bozo Nico. I just said that he was underrated. By the way, vindicated. Vindicated.
Everything is luck, dude.
The zag.
We sit here all the time talking about team building and philosophy and what teams should do, and it literally just comes down to like, oh, the Mavericks got lucky.
Yeah.
If anything, this is a vindication for your team building strategy.
Yeah.
More so than mine. Because mine is always like, who cares, just go into the shitter. Well, look what just happened to the Wizards, the Jazz, and the Pelicans. All of the teams that were like the Hornets, all those teams fell basically about as far as they possibly could in this draft.
Yeah.
And random teams jumped up. It really just is at the mercy of the lottery balls at this point.
Honestly, I think that's good too, though. I think that's kind of how it should be. I think that you should be, if you run a franchise like the Utah Jazz, you should be punished. Like, I'm sorry, you should be punished. Like that's part of this. Like, make a better team if you don't want this to happen. You know, like straight up.
It is very funny that they blew up a team that was like, I mean, look, I don't know if the Gobert Mitchell thing would have ever worked just because they might have wanted out of there. But ultimately, what it lands on is it was just before we moved into this era of parity.
Yeah.
Where you could have like a little bit of a deeper team where if you were just good on like the fringes at like building out teams, you could probably get away with a Gobert Mitchell style team. I mean,
yeah,
like
they gave up too early. Yeah.
They gave up too early on the and they ended up at the time. And you called this correctly where you're like, it's always easy to tear these things down. But like, what if Minnesota and Cleveland are really good? And by the way, Minnesota and Cleveland are really good.
Yeah. Like, it's quick. Well, and you know, I don't know. There's there's always and far off things too. I think people are very like prisoner of the moment. I don't think people understand how long and how quickly things change in the NBA, where like 5 years is a huge thing, because like I've been clowned on so much because when we made the Derek White trade, I was like, that swap is kind of fucking scary. And everyone was like, oh, that's like bullshit. And then like the last 3 years, I'm getting clowned on correctly because Derek White's awesome. Like Derek White's our second best.
And look, I like that trade for the Celtics and said, you guys are overreacting. You can go back and check the records. There are receipts on that.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to be this good. Like, I didn't think he was going to be like, oh, he's the 40th best player in the NBA.
Yeah. And honestly, it'll still probably be, I do think the Celtics are going to kind of like pivot in and out of this, but this is why that type of trade is like fucking dangerous, because like this shit can just happen and things can change very quickly. You are like one injury away or one bad thing, or as the fucking Brooklyn Nets discovered, one guy refusing to take a fucking shot away from your all-time team just detonating. That's the ultimate example. And I know everyone just kind of washes over it because it's like, ha ha, it's hilarious. It happened to the Nets again. Like that is like one of the most insane things that's ever happened, is that they put together like this absurdly good team and they played 16 total fucking games together. Never had a healthy.
We've never talked about this before.
You bring it up every 5 episodes. Enough. It is like insane that happened. Like it really is crazy to me that like I can't believe how much its memory holds. Like,
but the whole thing about this draft lottery is teams that bottomed out got punished this year for whatever reason, just random bad luck in the draft.
Yeah, sure.
And the teams that were somewhat competitive, or at least tried to compete, I guess. I mean, the Mavericks are just complete dumb fucking luck. The Spurs was bad health luck. The Sixers tanked at the end of the year for the last 30 games, undeniably. Yeah. But they also were just a wreck from the beginning of this season.
Also and had the ethics of being opposed to everyone who's a goody two-shoes whiner.
What do you mean?
Everyone crying about, the Sixers are unethical. Like, oh my God, like grow the fuck up. Like, stop crying.
I mean, look, I thought that coming into the season, we had a legit chance to like win the finals. And I just was completely wrong in my analysis. And then it was obvious by Christmas that, well, I shouldn't say Christmas. It was obvious by middle of January. Because by Christmas, we had that little Mickey winning streak, and we kind of fooled everyone into thinking we were more healthy and competent and whatever, and then they just had this disaster year. Now that might carry over into next year too, but at least they ended up keeping the pick in this draft, which transitions me off of the Flagg stuff, because that's another conversation. Like they're gonna have to make moves to make this team work. They just have to. And if we look at the rest of this draft board and how it shakes out, are we sure that the Spurs are going to take Harper at 2?
So that was my question that was my question for the Discord this morning, because I'm genuinely fucking fascinated by that, because you just traded for De'Aaron Fox. I don't think those guys are compatible really in the front court. I'm going to be like totally honest.
Their other like prospect that they desire is literally on their team. Castle is also a non-shooter. Like the thing about the 3-guard lineups with Castle, which I do think can work, is that was the idea that they got like Con Knipple or Trey Johnson. That was on the idea that they get this elite shooter to put between Fox and Castle. And then that just makes sense. But now if you're also adding in Harper, who, look, I like Harper a lot. There's basically no proof he's an outside shooter. He's like a a lowish volume for a lead guard 3-point shooter, if I remember correctly. He's not super efficient on them. The free throw shooting's good, but not great. And the pull-up 2 stuff, like, he doesn't really have much of that in his game yet. And it's not a guarantee that he reaches those levels. And if he doesn't, then you have a problem, because then you have Castle with the shooting question marks. You have Harper with the shooting question marks. You have De'Aaron Fox, who actually has become a much improved shooter over the last few years, but still is not like a consistent good 3-point shooter. And I think that you're starting to add up a bunch of non-shooting guards. And look, Wemby, similarly to Flagg, Wemby is the team building cheat code, where if you have him on your team, it's a lot easier to build a construction. But at a certain point, you do need to have a moderate amount of spacing around him. And I don't think you can play 3 non-shooting guards, or I shouldn't say non-shooting. For the NBA, that's the worst shooting trio we would have amongst any team that wants to be good, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I would think so. Like, I think I didn't like, this is exactly why I didn't really like the Fox trade, like when they made it, because I just felt like it was like kind of early to be doing some of this stuff. Like, I understand like Wemby's good right now. I understand that, but like
he also got a blood clot like 2 weeks after it, I think. Like, it was just like really bad timing.
Sure, yeah. I mean that's part of it, but I also think that this is like kind of part of why you do this, is to like clear this up, because now you've got like what are you going to do next year? You're going to have like Jeremy Sohan, Stephen Castle, like
Stefan
Castle, whatever.
It's been a year. You got to call him Stefan.
I'll do it when he wins Rookie of the Year. Did he already do that? Did that already happen? Right? Like, who cares?
It's Stefan. He already won Rookie of the Year.
Just call him Malcolm Brogdon, Rookie of the Year.
Call him Steph Castle. It's just easier to call him Steph.
Steph Castle, but like they're like you said, they need this team construction. Ironically, it's very funny that they might be the only team where like Ace Bailey might actually be more valuable to them than Harper is.
Okay, so this is what I was going to ask. There's 2 scenarios here, 2 different like roads they can go down. They can either stay at 2 and take Ace or VJ or Malawach or whoever, and VJ a little bit because of the guard. Also, I'm not super certain about his shot either. Yeah. I think positionally, Ace makes up. Everyone asked me who would be the best team for Ace, and when I thought they were going to be picking 8, I was like, the Spurs. The Spurs make the most sense by far for Ace. He doesn't have to have the ball. He can slowly grow into a role. He can be like learn role player things. And then the shooting is a nice complement to what they need right now. Like, they need shooting in their front court if you're going to have that backcourt work.
I think similar logic would apply to the Sixers. It's just it was impossible for you guys to be picking that low because you would have lost the pick.
Right.
Like, I like you guys taking Ace at like 6.
Before we get to that.
Yeah.
The other option that I had here was, do you think, because when look, I can't complain at all. The Sixers kept the pick.
Yeah.
I'm not pitching. It's better than losing the fucking pick. Like, staying at 3, even though I was like, please just get 2. Please get a top 2 pick in this draft, because I'd feel better. Even if you miss on Harper, I feel confident enough about Harper's floor and that someone might be interested in him in a trade or whatever. But long story short on this, I think this was the idea I had for the Sixers when they were potentially getting 2, was, do you call Utah and say, look, you guys need fucking someone.
Yes.
Dude.
Yes.
You can't just keep getting the 5th pick and maybe missing on guys in it. And do they feel strong enough about Harper to move up and give you an extra first and you move down to 5? Because then if you move to 5, like, you might still get Ace. So you could get Khan. There are guys that might fit better.
Khan, I would like Khan for the Spurs. I think that would be. I mean, I was doing something similar with some of the stuff. So that was going to be my question about the Jazz. Is they don't have anything that they want, but it would just be an extra first. Okay, that's interesting. I think I would do that if the Jazz. I don't know if I would give another one of my own picks, considering how shitty I am.
No, but they have Cleveland's picks, they have Minnesota's picks, and they also just got that Suns pick. Now, the question is, what level of first is it?
Oh, Shea won MVP. Let's take our victory lap.
Oh, let's preseason pick. Let's go.
Pick. Yeah.
Was not number 1 in odds when we said that too. I think he was 2nd or 3rd, if I remember correctly.
I think he was 3rd.
I think Jokic was 1st.
Yeah.
I think SGA was 2, because that was how MVP ended last year. So we got that one right. Congrats to Shea.
We would have got defensive player of the year too if Wemby didn't. Wemby's blood clots.
We have had a clean sweep, because Oh no, Peyton Pritchard didn't win 6th man of the year, did he?
No, he did.
Didn't we have him as one of our long shots? I literally think we made the joke that the BMM just gets 6-man, and he was like plus 10,000 to win. Someone can check the tape on that, but I'm pretty sure we did.
We could go back to the
He was not one of our main picks, though. I think that it was like Norm Powell and a few other guys.
Yeah, I think I picked one of the Thunder guys. I might have picked Case and Wallace or something like that. Like,
So that's a possibility that they could trade down there. Now let's talk about the Sixers a little bit, because a lot of people have been asking me what I would do here. Now look, there's a reason why I don't run an NBA team. Obviously, the Sixers have been one of the best drafting teams in the NBA, especially since Daryl Morey's taken over. They've done a really good job at the draft. I think Springer's really their only true miss, and he was a late first-round pick. I try to think about what guys like what Morey tends to go for in a prospect. There are certain front offices I feel like we get a good feel. Like Masai's always going to draft a guy with like a crazy wingspan.
Yeah.
The Magic are another team that that tend to trend that way as well. The other way that I like to look at it is like Morey is generally like a production pervert. Like, he likes guys who are super productive in college, high pedigree guys. So like high recruits coming out of high school, maybe played for the USA team, all that kind of shit. And the thing that I keep going back to with this draft is I would probably go best player available and just take VJ Edgecombe. And I think that he's the best player on the board there, potentially, if the top two goes Flagg and Harper. But I think realistically for the Sixers, there are 5 guys that they'll be mulling over.
Okay.
VJ Edgecombe, if you just think that he's the best player available and you don't care about fit. I do think at a certain point, though, you can't just have all your team be guards. Because Maxey, McCain, Grimes, like I know Grimes can play the 3 a little bit, but like you're really pushed because as much as I like VJ, he might be stuck as a 2. He's 180 pounds. Like he's not like built like a 200-pound tank, 210, 220. Like he's got to put on weight before I feel confident that he can even guard 3s. And I feel like in time he might get there, but for a team right now, like VJ, what I'm trying to say here is that there might just be a backlog and he might get stuck behind those guys and never get the reps to develop. And he's a guy that I feel like you want to get him into your system and play him right away. You do not want him rotting away on your bench. That's just something because I think he can impact the game in multiple different ways. And Bill said on his podcast that Morey would be a VJ guy because of basically he went back to like the Michael Lewis, no stats all-star story that he did about Shane Battier when Morey traded the Rudy Gay pick for Shane Battier. VJ is going to impact the game in other ways. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to get steals, blocks. Yep. He's really good in transition, which Morey has stressed. They want to be better in transition. They want to get out running. The problem with this is that once again, we're talking about a backlog that you're building up at the position when your 2 best young prospects are Maxey and McCain, and then Grimes you just traded for and you want to sign him. And then the other guys I had written down here were the positional fit guys, which is Ace Bailey.
Yeah.
And Kaman Malawach are the 2 guys I think are the other guys that they would consider here with the 3rd pick. And Ace is not productive like these other guys are, but this is a talent bet. This is literally a wing who can shoot with crazy tools, and you just hope that you get him into your system and you can build him into the player that people that aren't me think he can be. The thing that scares me about Ace, and it has continued to scare me about Ace this whole cycle, is like
he's bad.
It's that he like everything about him is in theory, except for the mid-range shooting, which is very real and legit. But that is like, I guess my whole thing with him is like, I talked about it from the jump, the shaky handle, the fact he doesn't get to the rim, the fact that he has he's not like a great processor. I think his passing isn't quite as bad as the assist numbers suggest, but I don't think that he processes quick enough to make the right reads to like be a legit playmaker in the NBA. You're putting him in a role that like, I know that people say like, well, Michael Porter Jr. was a much better shooter, but that's like the ideal kind of offensive role I feel like for him as he grows into hopefully something more and maybe his handle gets better and he gets better with decision making, because and the upside with Ace is that he might just be a better defender than Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr.'s athleticism was really sapped by those injuries, and he was never quite the same when he got to the NBA. And it's just, he does not have the flexibility or the hips or whatever, like, to be able to legitimately guard guys. But he is very tall. You can station him near the basket. He'll get rebounds. He can protect the rim. Ace is kind of, you're hoping that he can be a defensive guy that grows on offense and becomes a potential star in the NBA. I feel like outside of the top two guys in this draft, the Sixers are in a really weird position.
Yeah.
Because none of these guys, to me, scream star upside. And I think it's fine to get like a good high level role player, but you really don't want to miss on this pick.
Yeah. I mean, they're a prime trade back team. It is a 2-player kind of a 1.5 player draft a little bit, you know, like depending on eye of the beholder with Harper. So like maybe, but I do think there are going to be teams. I think VJ has enough juice there. I think he's going to be interesting to teams, and who knows, there might even be some perverts who are willing to trade up for Ace too. I do think that there is going to be 1 or 2 teams who are going to be willing to trade up. Now, are you going to get you're not going to be getting NFL hauls for your trade up. You know what I'm saying?
You'll probably get 2nd round picks or something, or maybe like a swap or something.
I was going to say, you'll get like a swap or like, you know, something like that. Like I think somebody put in the comments earlier, like, could they trade from 3 to 8 for Cam Johnson? Like, you're not getting Cam Johnson for moving down 5 spots.
Well, it's Cam Johnson and 8 for PG and 3 is what D-Bronx is saying. So basically, you get Cam Johnson, you get off the Paul George contract, and you swap. They get the 3rd pick, you get the 8th pick.
That's even better. What?
I mean, I would absolutely do that if I were the Sixers. I don't think the Nets would do that.
Yeah, I would say the Nets.
I don't think there's enough of a difference between the 3rd and the 8th pick in this draft. Once again, I like being in 5 or 6 because you let the other teams make mistakes sometimes.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
And reach on guys. And then if you miss on your pick, you go, well, we couldn't get the guy that went ahead of us. What are we supposed to do?
Right.
Like, that's a little bit of the coward in me. I think that's like a little bit of a cowardly position. But at the same time, the Sixers should be set up nicely here. Look, we can talk about trade downs all you want. I don't count the trade out last year because they just didn't pick. The last trade down we had, I believe, was in 2019 of a team in the lottery. We had, okay, so I just want to run this. We had like a few years because I think it distorts our perception. 2017, 2018, 2019, there were a ton of trades in those drafts. We had the Fultz Tatum trade. We had the Trey Luka trade. We had the Mikal Bridges Zaire Smith trade. We had these are all lottery involved trades here. Yeah. We had the Jared Culver Cam Johnson trade. We had the DeAndre Hunter, Nickeil Alexander Walker, Jackson Hayes trade.
I forget about that one. That one's
so we've had in that stretch, we had the most trade downs I think I can ever remember. Since then, we've had none, basically. We've had the trade out last year, and almost always teams stay chalk if they're in the lottery. Now, back of the first is different. 2nd round's totally different. But this lottery range, I think that I would just bank on there being no trades going into it. Like, I just kind of think the teams are scared to do that.
I think you guys should just take VJ then. I just think he's the best player available. I think he's substantially better than these other guys. I think
my gut feeling says that if they went best player available, they would take him.
It seems like a Morey move. I'm going to be totally honest. I feel like that is Morey doesn't give a shit about fit. He's the king of figure it out later. Like, I don't care if it's weird in the locker room.
That's true. The only reason I could see them going Ace or Malawach, one of those two, is because Morey is going into a potential. This might be his last year as a Sixers GM.
Sure.
Save your job picks when you're trying to win now versus he's not thinking long term like he usually does. And if Ace comes out and crushes Summer League, which, by the way, I'm calling that right now, you can clip this when Ace scores 35 points in Summer League and everyone's like, you thought Ace sucked. Summer League's the fakest basketball of all time. I fall for it every fucking year. I did it with, and look, I think Reed's going to be fine, but like Reed last year, I was like, oh, victory. And then it's like, look, it's just a different game. It's open hoops.
How about the guy with the identical basketball reference page? And we just talk about how Kevin Knox was the god of summer league. Like,
yeah, okay. So Knox and him are similar, but I do want to give a little bit of grace to Ace only for this reason. Ace, I talked about it with Fears, and if I'm doing it with Fears and I'm doing it with Flagg, I have to do it with Ace. Ace is really young.
Yeah.
Ace is 18. Ace is still going to be 18 on draft night. Like, once again, this is a little bit of Jaden Springer. His best fact about him and his best stat is his date of birth. But I just want to say that you have to give grace to these younger guys, especially wings, because wings, I mean, how many wing prospects have we both missed on? You missed on Tatum. You missed on Jaylen Brown.
Yes.
I wouldn't say I missed on Brandon Miller, or we both missed on Brandon Miller, but you missed on Brandon Miller.
I missed.
I feel like I had him 5 on my board. I should have never had him below Scoot.
Yeah.
That's a miss. Like, these are the decisions that it's fun for us to say on the podcast. It's the executives, once again, the fear with passing on Ace is that he turns out to be, I don't think he's ever going to be Jason Tatum, to be clear, but he has some crazy outlier development and turns into a star. And then you got this amazing prospect. I agree with you, though. Like, if we're sitting here I think VJ is a better prospect. I even think you can make the argument Malawatch is a better prospect.
Yes. Yeah.
And a better fit for what maybe not a better fit for the Sixers need, the idea of Ace, right?
Yeah.
And this is what gets me really scared, though. And why I think that Morey's not quite as high on him. And Lowe said on his podcast, the reason why the league isn't quite as high on Ace as the media class is what Zach basically said.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said his 3 closest stat comps are Cam Reddish, Kevin Knox, and Jalen McDaniels. I will say this much. He's way better than Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish was one of the more bizarre, he wasn't even a good mid-range shooter.
I was gonna say he was the ultimate living off his high school accolades guy.
Yeah, and by the way, this is Jalen McDaniels, not Jaden McDaniels. But also, I do want to point out Jaden McDaniels also was statistically horrible in college. The only thing that he had going for him was that he was a shot blocking wing who could be pretty decent. His offensive stats were horrendous, and he eventually, once again, had a competent handle and came into the league at a time when it's just really important to have defensive wings with competent handles and can occasionally create their own offense and knock down shots. So once again, I'm not the biggest. Everyone knows I'm not the biggest Ace guy. Will the Sixers and will the NBA just feel the need to draft the guy that is, but from everything I've heard, he's works really hard, awesome teammate, all that shit. And then also occasionally has these games where he can't miss and he looks absolutely awesome. Now, the thing for me is that these 3 outcomes that I'm thinking of, if Ace works, these 3 style outcomes, very different players. I'm not saying it's all over the map with him, but you're ideal, wow, we nailed the pick outcome for him is Mikal Bridges.
Yeah.
We feel good about the pick is Michael Porter Jr. level outcomes.
Yep.
And this is fine level outcomes is a Tobias Harris level player. Yeah. And we just went through Tobias Harris for years and Sixers fans hated him. Ace is kind of a similar player to him. I mean, he has more vertical pop than Tobias. He can jump really high and his measurements are slightly better. But once again, a wing with a shaky handle that is a good mid-range shooter, not a great decision maker, probably going to be a play finisher at best on offense, and you're hoping that the defense gets better. I'm just saying, I think I think people are doing him a disservice by comparing him to Paul George and Kevin Durant and these guys that are Paul George. Now look, Paul George also another guy that it just had a crazy bag that I don't think Ace has, combined with the fact that he became one of the greatest wing 3-point shooters of all time. And then Kevin Durant, who, by the way, people have pointed this out to me. If you talk about the dimensions of a player and you're comparing them to Kevin Durant, keep in mind, Kevin Durant was 7 foot with a 7'5" wingspan and could score like a guard in college. So if you compare Jabari Smith to him, you compare Ace Bailey to him, if you compare any of these wings that come out, even Brandon Miller, who I thought like Mikal Bridges level outcomes were there for him. That was like my thing. That was the optimism on Brandon Miller, who had a much better handle than Ace coming out, also was older. But if you're comparing him to them, you're just doing Ace a disservice. Like, you're going to be disappointed no matter what, because there's no world where he turns into Kevin Durant. Like,
no.
Kevin Durant's the greatest wing scorer of all time. Do you compare anyone to LeBron?
Yeah. No, it's outlier shit. It's like people taking the victory lap because Colin Murray Boyle's measurements were Draymond's, were like identical to Draymond's. It's like, that's bad.
Oh, Colin Murray Boyles, he's done it again.
He's done it again. Proper brilliant that.
I'm very glad that I fell for Colin Murray Boyles for about 2 weeks. And then I watched him shoot at the combine, and I was like, here's literally all of my... If you're buying in on Colin... By the way, I'll just finish up my list of the prospects for the Sixers while we're on that, because I have Colin Murray Boyles on my no shot that they draft him that high. There's just no chance. Even though I know the calculators love him, and I know that he's also pretty young. He's 19. And like positionally, the idea of Colin Murray Boyles or Ace Bailey would be fantastic for the Sixers. That's undeniable. I don't know if they reach the levels that their fans think that they can reach. So the other guy that I think is an absolute no shot for the Sixers is Fierce. There's no chance they draft Fierce. It's just that's even worse overlap than VJ. That's worse overlap than way worse. Yeah. And then long shot pick here. Don't think it's going to happen. But if Morey really wants to go pervert mode, Noah Essengay or Essengwe from France is like the long shot pick here. And then the less likely best player available is below. I think Ace and Malawach are more likely of the positional fit guys. And then VJ is like the most likely of the best player available potential. The less likely best player available guys are Trey Johnson, Con Knipple, and Derek Queen.
Derek Queen would be hilarious.
Why?
I just think that would just with this current Sixers construction. I'm just thinking about Embiid with Derek Queen, and like, it's one of those things where I turns me into the kombucha girl. I'm like,
double bigs,
they're in. Like, that's so funny. Like I don't know. I just have we ever seen an NBA front court that would be called fat more often than that? Like,
oh no, absolutely. Yeah. No, that if you want to break out the Pierce from Community gif, that would be the one.
Yeah. What is the name of the front court?
Which is very funny because like Joel takes pictures at the beach with his shirt off and he looks like an Adonis. And everyone's like, he's fat. I'm like, his body's just broken. He can't stay in shape. Yeah. But the Queen thing, Queen's athletic testing at the combine was fairly alarming, I would say. It's a good way to put it. But also, we kind of expected that going in. No one was... Yeah. I mean, the comps he was getting are all unathletic guys, like Şengün. Yeah. And like if we went into the combine thinking that he was good, it was even worse than I thought. But I also... The person who said that he was 6th percentile for centers also didn't take into account that... They also didn't take into account that that also included his measurements against other centers. So, like, I think Queen's a 4. I don't think he can play the 5 in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think he's a 4, right? Yeah. So I would need to see that. Although I guess the athletic standards would go up. The athletic standards would go. The size would be more accurate to what he actually is, though. But once again, another guy who's just very skilled, but a tweener. A ton of question marks about his game. Once again, good basketball player that might just not be a great fit for the modern NBA.
It's such a bummer because I actually love Derek Queen, and I don't want to I would love to be in on Derek Queen. Just there's too much. There's just too many red flags for adjustment to the NBA. You know, would love to be wrong about him, but it seems like there's too much going wrong there. So
I'm pulling up. I'm curious on this because once again, I don't really care all that much about combine stuff. I don't want to overrate it, but this is the list of players who were in the 10th percentile and lower, I guess, for centers in athletic testing at the combine, and I literally only recognize Luka Garza and Jaren Collins.
I didn't even recognize Jaren Collins.
That's Jason Collins' brother. You don't remember him?
Now that you say that, kind of.
Yeah.
But I don't remember him playing.
So
Keith Gallen is a fucking name, though. Can't believe he didn't pan out.
Yeah, I don't recognize any. I might just be, they might be too old for me to remember, but
I also do think some of this stuff is a little bit of like pseudoscience. You know what I'm saying?
Agree. No, yeah. I agree. I also think, like, I mean, there are certain things that if you watch Queen play basketball that clearly will translate. He's got a good handle for a big. He has real touch. I think that for someone his size, he's a very good passer. I think that I think there are a few guys in this draft that could benefit from NBA spacing. He might be one of them.
Yeah.
The Sixers are one of the few teams that has a big who can shoot and space the floor. So he probably would be an ideal fit there, but I don't think they end up taking him. To be clear.
No.
I think that's more like, I think that he ends up going in like the 8 to 14 range probably in this draft. And then like I said, the other two I just want to discuss really quickly. Con Knipple, who, look, I love Con. The athletic question marks are absolutely very, very real for him.
Do you see Bartlestein has him ducking the testing?
He's not doing any of the athletic testing?
Yeah, somebody just sent that tweet in because he rolled his ankle. God, Bartlestein.
Smart. Good. That's a good agent.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
God, Bartlestein was like, no, don't do that.
Free the Knipple.
Yeah.
This would be a good shirt if the Sixers get him.
Yeah.
Which when Nick Nurse doesn't play him at all next year because he's not once again the Trey Johnson and the Con Knipple stuff very similar to the VJ stuff, but VJ at least is like a athletic rebounding, will do a little bit of dirty work guy, whereas the Con's rebounding stock stuff. You're drafting Con for his offense. Really good passer, can handle the ball, great shooter. So some of the athletic measurement stuff we already knew was going to come back poorly for Con. And I think we'll continue to kind of maybe bump his stock a little bit down. But he's, once again, kind of similar to Queen, good basketball player. The question mark is, what does the athleticism just make his floor drop off? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like Con a lot just as a prospect, but it is a tough sell for sure when you're talking about translating to the NBA. And by the way, Trey Johnson, you want to talk about someone who crushed the combine? The two guys who crushed the combine, which is not a surprise because they're like actually fairly athletic, are Trey Johnson and Ace Bailey. But Trey didn't seem that athletic. I guess I don't really know. I'm not the best at interpreting like athleticism and what will translate and what won't. Trey didn't seem that athletic to me, the comps that he was getting were like the Tyler Heroes, like the vaguely unathletic guys in the NBA, but he has a 6'10" wingspan, Trey.
Yeah.
Which I knew, it looked like he had long arms, 6'5" with a 6'10" wingspan. I think the thing that people have said, the thing that people are worried about in the NBA is the thing that we've discussed is like, does he buy into a role?
Yeah.
Because I like him as a prospect.
Concern. Yeah, that's my biggest concern because I actually think he could be like a really good. I feel that way a little bit about Ace too, where like I feel like if the will is there, you know what I'm saying? Like I think both of those guys, like you kind of have to interview them and kind of see where their head's at. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're going to make the call, like, because I think if these guys are kind of Jaylen Brown style, like workers, I feel pretty good about betting on those guys. Like just with like the measurables and like trying to like figure some of this out, you know, but if they're like, I'm going to be like a great number one for this team going forward, then you like, okay.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If it's not Flagg and it's not Harper, who would be your best star bet outside of that?
Still VJ.
Star.
Still VJ for me.
See, I have VJ higher on my board, but I struggle to get to the star level outcomes because of the handle, because of the fact that he is someone who was not tasked with being like a real decision maker in college. Now, maybe it gets better. He gets stronger. He fills out, and that becomes a strength of his. In the finishing worries me. I do think that he will benefit from NBA spacing for sure, because that's generally something that happens with these guys who can get downhill in the blink of an eye. I feel like in the NBA, his role will be more off the ball than it will be on the ball. I think there's a pathway for him to become like, did you see the clip where they asked about who the most the most underrated players in the NBA are? So Flagg said Halliburton. Derek Queen said Dennis Schroeder. I think it was Derek Queen.
Kind of Cook, to be honest. Like
Dennis Schroeder
is pretty underrated. Like, to be
Con, Con, my boy, I love you, but chill it with the Bam Adebayo stuff. Come
on. Oh my God.
That is you, but a guy that looks like Con, of course. I mean, he looks like he could be on the podcast with us.
I was just gonna say, yeah, he looks like a podcaster. The podcaster jumped out of him.
Yeah. But who VJ said was the two guys he said, you're gonna love this. And Mateo pointed out this is very much knows your role type guy. He said Derek White and Drew Holiday.
Oh, I love that. Let's go.
So that's
VJ's vibe. Yeah.
That's the idea if you're buying into VJ, is that he, once again, because I think that Ace and Trey, by the way, I would argue that Trey is the biggest hooper in this whole draft. And I think that Ace getting it is weird to me because first off, I think Trey has more of a bag. His handle's better. He's a better, I guess Ace is a pretty good mid-range shooter. That's the one thing that I do think that neither of them get to the rim.
Trey's a movement shooter though, which is a huge difference.
I think Ace can shoot off the move too, to be honest.
Really? Okay.
I think if everything pans out for Ace, he's going to be good off the move, and he showed at least a little bit of that this year. Trey's just a better shooter in general, in my opinion. I think Trey's the best shooter in the draft. It's either Trey and Con for me. And then Ace is like a level down as a shooter, just because the free throw stuff isn't quite there yet, and the 3-point shooting has a ways to go. The shot making off the mid range stuff is like undeniable. Like he's legitimately was one of the best college mid range shooters in the NCAA this past year. But the Trey stuff, I think Trey's the most dynamic shooter in the draft, I should say.
Oh yeah,
off the dribble, off movement. Someone who will pull up from the mid-range, pull up from three, little one dribble, two dribble game. Ace has the one dribble, two dribble game too, but I think Trey's more of a hooper in my opinion. So no, the thing with Trey in this draft is that I feel like there's an argument to be made that he's the third best star bet in this draft.
Trey
Johnson. Now, look, could the floor fall out? Sure.
Yeah.
But I think if you want to talk about someone who can handle the ball, you want to talk about someone who is a very legit shooter from multiple different ranges. Now, obviously, the stuff that I worry about with Trey is everything else. I've been saying that from Trey at least has an elite skill, which I think is required to be a star in the NBA. But you're basically betting on the playmaking passing flashes we saw this year translating to the NBA more so than whatever he looked at like in college. Like he very much like the possession usually started and ended with Trey. That was the problem. Can he grow into a guy who makes like even above average reads with a ton of shooting and scoring gravity, and then becomes even just like a solid defender? Because he has the tools to become a solid defender, but it felt like every time I watched, it was like he was not playing defense at all.
He's got all the stuff, you know what I'm saying? Again, it's like a work, you know what I'm saying? Like how hard are you like willing to work, and are you willing to like embrace your role? Because like he's up there. Honestly, you know who else is kind of up there too?
I think he's going to crush Summer League.
Yeah. Khan also has a little bit of star. He's not a good defender, but like, when does that ever matter to being a star? To be totally honest, you know, like, so I think Khan there, like, if you think he's a great passer and a great shooter, I mean, the at rim stuff is really bad, but like, if you can shoot well, it kind of doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, I wonder how much. My thing with Khan is like, how bad is the defense because of the athleticism? I think he really does try on that end, but like the NBA is just another level. Like in terms of what the bar is for you, because he's going to be a 2. He has to be almost.
Yeah.
He might be able to get away with playing in some teams on 3-guard lineups, but like it would not be the Sixers. I feel let's just talk a little bit about the rest of the way that the lottery broke and the fits that we like. Because right now we already talked about our fits that we liked at the top of the draft here.
Real quick, can I just squeeze in one last guy that I think has a chance to be a star in this draft?
Yeah.
Clayton. Okay, we can continue.
Walter?
I'm getting Walter pilled. You've convinced me to be Walter pilled.
I mean, the measurements for him were like, you're betting on. I guess we just did this with Jared McCain last year, to be clear.
Yeah.
But Jared was, I think, 2 years younger than Clay. I think Clayton's 22. It's very hard to come into the NBA at that age and be a star. But I do think that he's going to be a good NBA player.
I'm talking myself into it. I'm like, I might end up putting him. I might fuck around and put him in the lottery before this is over. Like,
so I would say just my general stuff. Once again, I think there's an argument that Malawach and VJ might be better prospects, just because I feel a little bit safer about what their roles instantly translating to the NBA and having 10 to 15 year careers. But just if we're going star bets, just outside of the top guys, I'd probably go Trey. I'd probably go Fears. And then I feel like it's like, yeah, I mean, if I wouldn't go Walter Clayton. I can't get there with him, but I do like him a lot. Like I've been Clayton pilled for sure. But let's just talk about a little bit about the Hornets. You said spiritually Ace Bailey feels like
there's never been a more Ace Bailey player. That's why I'm sure the Sixers aren't going to take Ace Bailey, because that's like a match made in heaven. Those guys were born to play with each other. And I also think he kind of makes a little bit of sense on that team. Like a little bit. He kind of gives them something they don't really have.
I mean, what is the difference between him and Brandon Miller? If not, Brandon Miller's just a better ball handler.
And passer. That's what I'm saying. Like, he's like the stationary. One of the guys like does that. You know what I'm saying? Like I
so think, like the wing duo, like one handles the ball, creates, and the other one is more of a, like we said, like a Michael Porter Jr. or
like a spacer.
Yeah.
And the athlete, the upside. Like you've got LaMelo. The 26 games LaMelo plays, he'll be able to get him the ball in good spots. Like
that's the problem with picking anyone for the Hornets is like, has a plague ravaged the team once again?
Yeah.
And once again, we can't talk about them because they're just never available.
The other one for the Hornets I'm looking at, I think Malawach would actually be really interesting for them.
They're not married to Mark Williams.
They certainly are not. We know that.
No. They literally already tried to trade Mark Williams. And so 3 years after they draft Mark Williams, just turn around and draft another center from Duke with crazy tools.
I think you should do that. Like, I think you should just do that and turn around. I mean, the rich people make visa issues go away. I'm not worried about the visa issues. The
visa issues are not. There's literally, someone explained this to me. There's a golden visa you can buy that is literally just, if you're rich, your employer can just buy it for you.
Yeah.
He'll be fine. Or you can buy it. He's a multimillionaire. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
He's probably already has a lot of money.
The NBA probably took care of it already.
I'm sure. Yeah,
I'm sure the league office took care of that already. Yeah. It would be crazy if they didn't, to be totally honest.
Okay. By the way, 5, the Jazz. Is there a fit there that you like? Tankathon has them taking Tankathon has them taking Trey Johnson. I kind of think they should. Trey or
why
Con?
not? He's kind of got a lot of the guys left on the board. He has the most upside.
Trey or Con, I think, is the pick there.
Yeah, if Con certainly has another trait they're looking for.
We missed out on Cooper, but we're not missing out on Con.
Yeah. Also, Con fits in with the multi-level marketing schemes they have going on out there.
Why is that?
Because of his name.
Oh, folks.
Have you heard this one? You heard this one?
So, all right. That was pick 6. All right, so that's 5. So 6 is the Wizards.
Are we assuming the board broke the way? Are we
we're just going with Flagg, Harper, VJ, Ace.
Now
Trey, and then we'll just say Con. Do we want to stick with Con here? Because that's who they have them taking. Fears? Queen?
I don't think Fears is Queen. You know what?
Mateo was talking about the fact that he likes the Sar and Queen fit.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like Sar and Queen actually isn't like, like it's kind of like Queen is like the brain in that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles bad guy he's like a big strong guy and he's got the brain in his tummy. Derek Queen is like the smart player who's like has a bad body athlete, and then Sar is like
inverse
turbo athlete who for whatever reason thinks he needs to shoot like Krang. Thank you. Yes.
The reason why he needs to shoot that way is because he just is not good inside. And if he's going to be an NBA player, he needs to be able to shoot.
I think he could be if he wanted to be. I think there's a little bit of I am the greatest shooter.
Are you saying that Sar is bitch made?
Yes, I am.
That actually was like a knock on him, and I was like, this is such boomer shit.
I'm coming around because the thing about Sar is I don't watch him and I don't go like, oh man, like this guy's like hopeless. I'm like, why are you not good?
I mean, it's the same thing we talked about with Cat, where we get frustrated that he's not better. Like we're rooting for you, but are you rooting for you? It feels like a weird relationship here. But
that's an interesting one. Queen, I don't. Very funny. I actually kind of like. I don't really like this guy at all, but like Casper on the Wizards is kind of interesting to me.
I really don't know enough about Casper. He's just been like my blind spot prospect. I feel like I have not dug into at all.
I don't really like him, but like for whatever reason, I think with this Wizards team, like
the international, he's from America though, isn't he? Another one of those guys that's from America. Yeah, he just has his family's Lithuanian.
Yeah,
it's Matas all over again.
It could be. He's like a passer guy who like is like kind of an inefficient shooter and like probably can't shoot threes. But is like big and like sees the floor and is like, kind of interesting. And I kind of, for where the Wizards are at right now and where they're picking, I don't know. They should probably trade back if Khan's on the board because Khan's going to have real value. Like at that point, I think someone would trade up for Khan at that point. But
we're just trade ups don't exist in this because they just don't happen anymore.
I think
we're theorizing. What I'm trying to say is best fit for each team. I think that I actually buy the Queen stuff
for the Wizards. It's interesting. It's definitely
he went to Maryland. They're in DC.
They need creation pop from somewhere, and
absolutely,
Derek could kind of help with that. That's kind of why I put Casper on there. Like
that's the thing they need is that they need to find creators because people love to be like, you could just take the role players of it. They're at the point where like we're now 2 years into the rebuild basically since the Bradley Beal trade, which look, it wasn't much of a rebuild to begin with. They didn't have a lot to work with, and they've gotten a little bit of bad lottery luck here, getting the second pick in a worse draft and then getting 6 in this draft. But I kind of think that taking a bet on a creator type here is the best move for them. So let's just say they take Queen.
Yeah.
So then when you get to the Pelicans, you have Malawach, Khan, Fears, Casper.
I just really like Yves Missy, but I do think Malawach is probably like
Malawach is the pick here.
Yeah. I saw some mocks had Fears here, and I don't totally get that, to be totally honest. That seems like exactly what they don't need to me.
It depends on what you think they do with their roster, I feel like. Because it's right now, they don't really have, like, you hate DeJounte. CJ McCollum, you also hate. So why do you care is the thing. They need guards.
But they can't shoot. Like,
what do you mean?
Fierce can't shoot.
I disagree with that. I think Fierce can shoot.
Do you?
Yeah. I think he shot bad on pull-ups. I think that he's going to be a good catch and shoot guy. I think he has good touch. I think that he had a bad shooting year. I think he's going to be a good shooter in the long term. And he was amazing shooting at the combine too. I just want to not that means everything, but I think that has to at least factor in a little bit. He has a lot of touch indicators. His shot profile is identical to Maxi's, who also had a bad year shooting in college.
We're at the point in the draft when I'm going to start saying my guys, so I would say like Noah or Jace here.
Okay, but hold on. There's Khan on the board here.
Oh yeah, we didn't pick Khan.
I think Khan. I think if Khan's still on the board, they take Khan.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right.
So let's just say Khan for them, and then I think Fears is such a net, dude.
Probably, yeah.
They're just at the point in the rebuild where it's like, fuck it, why not? Once again, I another guy that's just a creator bet. 85% from the line, got there a lot. 46% on all self-generated non-paint twos.
Yeah,
that's good. He's young. Once again, he would probably be 4th or 5th on my star upside bet guys in this draft.
Yeah,
but he's certainly up there. His measurements at the combine were pretty disastrous, though. If I remember correctly, I think that he was like really underweight. And speaking of, I literally dropped. This is gonna break your heart.
Yeah,
I dropped Jace to 20 on my board. I know he's a good basketball player, dude. If you're, I don't know how you could be 6 foot. I know he has a 6'11" wingspan. He weighs less than Fears. He has such an uphill battle.
He is going to cook on a level we've never seen before. He's so good. I don't care. Like, if you're good, it doesn't matter. Like, I really believe that. And like, if you're mid, it matters. I think he's good. The difference between good and mid is massive. So Carson Edwards was not good, Kevin. Come on. He went in the second round. Come on.
Well, Carson Edwards was a good college player.
He's also like 5'9". Like,
Carson Edwards was insanely small. I think his combine measurements were even worse. I think he was like 5'10" at the combine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Jace, I forget who in chat put this. Jace just doesn't have a neck. We're being.
Mateo said that. Yeah, Mateo said buy the dip with Chase.
Yeah. I'm buying the dip with Chase. Like I'm gonna drop him down my board a little bit. I'm probably still gonna have like Jace in my top 7 though. I'm sorry. He's a good player. He's young. Like, the length. Like, I know he's short. The length is like manageable though. Like,
I had Jace like top 10 or 12 on my board. It's so hard for me with those measurables. Now look, maybe I'm wrong.
Everything but his height though is pretty good. I guess the weight.
He's underweight. He's underweight. The 6'6" wingspan is good.
Yes.
He's not a lead guard. I don't know. It's I hate to do it because I hate to be like NBA brained when he is very clearly a good basketball player. But if we're talking about guys who will translate, it's just hard for me to see it. But I should have known this when I watched his. He was listed at 6'3".
Yeah.
I know if you guys lost like an inch or two, 3 inches is fucking crazy, dude.
Kevin, you and I are going to have a side bet about Jace at some point.
Also don't cut that last part that I just said out of context, please.
Let's go. Bang.
All right. So we're at we picked Fears for the Nets. Now the Raptors are up on the board.
Dude, Casper is the grossest fit. God, I tried to talk myself into AC duel.
This board just is a disaster if this is the way.
Oh, Noah's still there. No, take Noah.
That's such Masai's pick taking Noah.
Yeah, Noah's there.
Noah is literally born to be a Raptor.
God, he's actually good though.
By the way, I don't know if Masai. Let me ISO here.
Okay.
I don't know if Masai is the one who made the pick to go to the draft lottery and be the representative for the Raptors, but Daryl Morey didn't even do that.
That's so funny.
They had Jared McCain as he was the only legit basketball president of basketball operations that was the rep, I think. Like, to have an ego that big is wild, dude. That is like insane to me.
That's beast mode. I respect it. I think that's actually good.
Masai is really living like the ideal life.
He really has.
Banking on past accomplishments.
Yeah.
But just completely vibing out. Apparently he's just like in Florida all the time.
I was gonna say, it's the American dream where you're like actually good at your job for like 5 years, 20 years ago, and then you just live off that for
get
the rest
equity
of your life.
In a corporation, basically.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Dang. We love to see it. Like Masai deserves everything he has gotten so far.
Did you see his quote about getting the 9th pick?
No, what did you say?
First off, amazing quote. He said, yeah, well, and to be fair, early in his career, he was very good at finding gems in the draft. OG, Pascal, Fred VanVleet was undrafted. He was awesome at it. Mm-hmm. But I do just want to point out, his quote was, DeMar DeRozan, Tracy McGrady, Jakob Poeltl, we always find good value with the 9th pick in the draft. By the way, he only made one of those picks, and it was Jakob Poeltl, which is by far the worst.
And somehow he traded away and traded back for Jakob Poeltl and lost the trade both times.
No, he won the first Jakob Poeltl trade. What are you talking about?
Oh, no, never mind.
It was the Kawhi trade.
No, never mind.
I was like, listen, if you just stack enough number 9 picks, DeMar DeRozan, Jakob Poeltl on top of each other, eventually you get a Finals MVP.
Okay, hold on.
Now you just thought about Jaylen Brown?
Hold on, I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about this a little bit.
You're like, why don't the Raptors have anything that I want? I shouldn't have said Finals MVP.
It's okay. We'll circle back to this later on in the episode.
Yeah. All right. So let's just wrap up the lottery real quick.
Okay.
Noah's absolutely them. They take him there.
Yeah.
The Rockets. By the way, I would if I were the Rockets. Brooklyn Nets. Would you like the 10th pick and we'll get Cam Johnson?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. This is the exact trade I was gonna offer. I think it's going to kind of depend on who's on the board, but like,
and the Nets might just be like, we just picked and we have like 2 other picks coming up. They have 19 and 26 and 27. Yeah, they're not doing.
Well, maybe you try to get one of the other picks or something for Cam.
Yeah, you might if you get 2 first, sure.
Yeah.
If you get 10 and then another pick, if you're the Rockets, you should just stop taking prospects. Unless someone falls that is like amazing.
They're lucky Sam Presti is like absorbing all of my ire because I'm getting there with the Rockets. Like,
well, they're 1 year. The Rockets have this offseason because they're 1 year behind the Thunder in the timeline.
Yeah.
They're 2 years ago they were a 500 team, OKC, and then they made the playoffs. They were the 1 seed last year. Now they're the 1 seed this year. They made some win now trades last offseason / free agency signings. The Rockets are now where the Thunder were a year ago. Yeah,
not this. You've got to start making some decisions. You've got to start getting some of these guys off your team.
With someone's brought this up with the NBA this wide open, especially with the Tatum injury, just throwing in a completely other like the Celtics are just not going to be a contender next year.
If you're in the East, dude, like why not? Like
I think there are going to be a lot of teams that are just making crazy fucking win now trades this offseason based on these playoffs. The Dame thing with Giannis potentially being available. Tatum's injury, there's so many factors. A few guys just like aging out too. I feel like there are going to be a lot of teams that are like, we can win next year.
Do you know Galactic Dad on Twitter, who's like a Grizzlies fan? I feel so bad for him, dude. That the Southwest Division is like such a fucking wagon next year. Like it sucks so bad to be a Grizzlies fan.
What's the Southwest Division? OKC.
No, they're because they were Seattle, so they're like weirdly in the Northwest Division.
Oh, okay.
It's the Rockets, the Spurs, the Mavs, the Pelicans, and the Grizzlies.
I don't think the Mavs are going to be that good next year. I don't care that Cooper Flagg's on their team. The Spurs, I know they have more talent than the Spurs. That's unfair. They have way more talent than the Spurs. Get me one guard. Can you get a guard? if they go out and get like Austin Reeves or that's just the funniest outcome, or they get like a competent starting level guard, I'll backtrack on this. But I'm like, I still am like, Anthony Davis never plays. Cooper Flagg is a rookie. I need to see it. I need to see it, House.
I'm all in on Cooper Flagg. You went to a franchise that I don't think has very much aura, but you're about to give them aura king.
But who was the last rookie that was good enough to like lead their team to the playoffs that wasn't drafted to a team that was already a clear playoff team?
I mean, they would have been a clear. I mean, I guess Kyrie's still hurt, but like, you're not.
I wouldn't say that they would be a clear playoff team. I think they would have been in the play-in still. In the West,
I think I'm probably
you're baking in health for two guys who are not healthy.
True, facts. That's 100% true. I think with a full transaction cycle, I think that this could be like, I think if you have, I've seen Nico Harrison do more with less, I guess is what I'm saying. I actually kind of trust Nico Harrison once he like has his guys in place.
This is unbelievable.
I'm just saying, like, we've literally seen it. Like,
he's wriggled his way out of the jam.
Yeah. Like, look, that what happened with Luka, like, literally seems like he was in like one of those like noir thrillers where like the femme fatale drugs you and you wake up and you're like you've been like set up, you're in like the bloody hotel room with the dead hooker.
Your kidneys have been removed, you're in the bathtub with ice.
Yeah, so he like got set up. Like, I think Rob Pelinka like drugged him and like for this like one bad move, and he got blackmailed. Like, I think that I still believe in Nico Harrison as a like team builder guy. So like,
you're the strongest Japanese soldier that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rockets. I say they trade the pick, but we'll see. We were not doing trade down. So best player available here for them. Man, the board did not break great for them.
Yeah. Is it Liam McNeely?
No. He cannot be Liam McNeely.
Ugh. Thomas Sorber. How do you feel about Thomas Sorber?
Do they need another big? I guess. Steven Adams is pretty old.
I like him at least.
Sure. Like, people have been giving me shit because I think Sorber's a good prospect. Yeah. I just think he has like he has the name of a dentist.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
He's also from here, Philly. So if he's good and we don't draft him, no one's ever going to shut the fuck up about it. So I'm going to have to hear about it for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then I've just said he's very much a good prospect that is just like an NPC player.
Can I throw one at you? Where are the Rockets picking? 10?
Yeah.
We're starting to get into Walter Clayton range for me.
Well, they just took Reed last year, though. If they believe in Reed,
I literally forget Reed is on the team.
Honestly, I think that they would. God, they just can't take another. They can't take another like wing type. Like, this is where we're getting into like the Rasheer Fleming, Carter Bryant, Nick Clifford.
I'm gonna be honest. Besides Nick Clifford, I don't know anything about like any of these guys like in this range. Like,
oh, okay. So let's just end it here then. Okay. I feel like, I mean, I just feel like we're getting to a point where like Kasparis feels like a bull to me for sure. I agree with Kev 100% on that. Kev's cooking. So let's say they get him. Colin Murray Boyles is currently scheduled to go to the Hawks. I hate that fit.
So bad.
That's a horrible fit.
I don't even know where he would go. Where's a good fit for Colin Murray? Yeah.
Colin Murray Boyles is an OKC guy. 100%.
Yeah.
I think Carter Bryant goes at the end of the lottery. I think he's another guy that goes at the end of. I think like the Spurs consider taking him. I think I also think the Blazers might trade out of this pick.
Interesting. Yeah.
They want to win, dude. They were pretty decent this year. I think they might be ramping it up. I just pulled a bill. If you know, you know. Yeah. But let's talk about a little bit about where the Celtics go from here, because the playoffs are kind of like, I don't know. We've kind of already talked about them a lot. I feel like this is the biggest storyline of this offseason now. Because I just have a feeling Giannis isn't going to ask out, dude. Like, we've gotten so much, like, I don't really want to know. I want to be a Buck for life. And
I don't think we get the Shams report if he's not going to do it.
But what do they, like, everyone, like, East is wide open for Giannis. What do? They don't have good players. I said this before the playoffs where you were like, you can't count them out because of Giannis. And I'm like, their team stinks. They don't have players.
And they literally have no path to get these players.
That's why I'm like, what is the pathway here?
Yeah. No, they have like literally no path. No, I mean, I just don't think he can. And I think he's realizing that. I think I think what happened was they had a conversation with him. And Giannis was like, how are we going to get better? And they explained to him, like, dog, I have to tell you, we literally cannot make the team better.
It's the Kurt Angle's, Kurt Angle, when that broke motherfucker looks at you and says, get wings when you're ordering pizza and they have no money. That's what John Horst did to Giannis.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Kurt Angle.
We have no money, dude. We have no picks. We have no players money to trade. The Dame part of it is just such like a crazy, because like it was obvious Dame was about to get traded if Giannis stayed.
I hate that this happened to the Milwaukee Bucks because this should have been happening to the Miami Heat.
Right. Well, that was your whole thing, was that if Dame goes there, it's going to be a disaster. And honestly, it could have been. And it ended up in disaster for the by the way, did you see Barry Jackson crashing out over the Tyler Hero, Donovan Mitchell stuff?
No, what did Barry Jackson say?
So everyone was basically, all these Heat fans, rightfully so, were pissed that the front office didn't offer Tyler Hero and 3 first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell in 2022. And Donovan Mitchell was destroying in the playoffs. And then Barry was trying to victory lap when he had one bad game where he got injured in that game.
Yeah.
And was like, see, the problem with the human brain is that it can only process the last thing that it's seen. And I'm like, oh, you mean Tyler Hero, who just made his first All-Star team, versus the last 5 years of Donovan Mitchell being a clear all-NBA level player and like even better in the playoffs?
Donovan Mitchell, who like always, like, people are like, when people do first team All-NBA, they like usually talk about him at some point. He doesn't make it.
He's made first or second team the last like 4 years. Like, comparing Tyler Hero, who just had his first legitimately good very good season, and then was once again bad in the playoffs, versus Donovan Mitchell, who is clearly a playoff riser. Oh, he's only made one All-NBA, Mitchell? Did he have injuries?
Is that like, that has to be like,
no. That has to be bullshit. What?
I don't think that's true.
Although
did he get hurt?
The guard bar has always been really high, is the one thing. I feel like he didn't play enough games then. There's no way, dude. What?
I'm finding this out. I'm investigating.
I need to know this because that blows my mind.
Yeah, dude, only one, which is insane.
So last year, did he not play enough games?
He must
23, 24?
Yeah, what happened there?
How many games did he play?
No, he played 71 games. Because I guess just because they were like mid. Who's the All-NBA team? Who was the All-NBA team last year?
This is blowing my mind. All right, well, I feel like Donovan Mitchell's been a top 15 player for the last 4 years. He only played 55 games, 71 this year, Sam. That was it.
Oh, sorry, I'm looking.
He didn't qualify.
Yeah.
I was like, there's got to be some. There's no way Donovan Mitchell was not one of the 15 best players in the regular season last year. Yeah.
It's also insane because you go back, all the Utah shit. It really is like insane that like Utah, they just like his stats are like kind of the same in Utah, but all of a sudden all the accolades are gone.
Well, also that is definitely true that people just didn't want to. And Utah's team was insane, but the in the regular season at least. Yeah. The people definitely don't want to give Utah the credit. I don't disagree there. But also remember, Mitchell had like insane performances with the Cavs in the first 2 years. Yeah. Bro, he had like a 71-point game. Like, that's why I was so confused. I was like, he scored 70 points in a game. How did he not make All-NBA both of those years? But either way, but the whole point of this argument And the thing that I was like, this makes no sense when Barry Jackson was talking about it was, I was like, dude, even if Tyler Hero ends up becoming an All-NBA player, it doesn't matter. You just wasted the Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo years by not trading him with the picks for Donovan Mitchell. You're maximizing your only championship window. If Tyler Hero makes a third team All-NBA, great. Your team still stinks.
Yeah.
Like it's once again, it's about maximizing the opportunities you have to win a championship when you're regularly an Eastern Conference Finals and Finals team. They made 3 Eastern Conference Finals and 2 finals in a handful of years, and then they just didn't even try to maximize their championship window.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. So that's a absolutely hold the L there. But let's wrap up with the conversation about the Celtics here, because the Celtics are going into next year with obviously no Jason Tatum for all of next year, which is fucking insane. I never thought that he would miss a full season. Kristaps Porzingis going into the last year of his contract. Yeah. Drew has 2 years left after this.
I thought it was 3, but maybe I'm
wrong. I think it's 2 after this year.
Because I think he was expiring last year.
He had 3 years.
Yeah. So 3 for Drew after this year, 4 for Derek after this year. Derek is
the one. Derek and Pritchard are the 2 guys I think are Celtics.
Yeah, Derek. I would just say Derek.
Do you think they even consider trading Pritchard on that contract?
Yeah, because that's going to have value, like especially right now.
That's true. But what does that trade even look like if they were to consider that?
I mean, it's probably a throw-in, or it's probably part of it. So I've already done a little research on like what the Celtics want to do.
Okay, before you continue there, someone's asking, is he out for all of next year? Functionally, yes. Now, can he come back in February? Sure, but a lot of the times what they do is like the Jamal Murray thing, where if the injury happens this late in the season and you have no chance to win the championship, which is a very good possibility next year, then you just say, sit it out. You know, we'll figure it out next year. We don't want to rush you back. What's the point of rushing you back?
Even if he comes back, he's like not going to be effective. You know, and it's like Celtics fans were like talking about that last night on my timeline. I don't know why I shouldn't. Every time I sports tweet, it like goes like a little, not viral, but it gets a little bit of traction.
You don't have to explain it to me, dude.
It's just the most annoying people in your fucking replies.
Both of us are going to be in the absolute piss and shit machine next week, or in the next few days when the Knicks win this series.
Yeah.
I literally might have to deactivate my Twitter account because Knicks fans are going to be like just absolutely insane in my mentions. But anyway, continue.
Yeah. It was also awesome that like muting doesn't work on quote tweets. Mm-hmm. By the way, if you want to annoy someone, just quote tweet, because mutes don't work on that. So if you really want to like piss someone off, quote tweet their
I love that.
Yeah.
I mute it and then I get the quote tweet notification and I'm like, why are you bringing up this tweet I tweeted 2 weeks ago? That's always Knicks fans, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue. I'm not owned.
Yeah.
Where do the Celtics go from here?
So I looked into this. I mean, I think so. There's a lot of like issues here. Okay. The first one is that Drew Holiday is old and has 3 years left on his like deal.
I think he'd have trade value.
I think he's still going to have trade value. Not a lot, but I think he is going to have trade value. Teams I was looking at for him, I put in one. There's like a Spurs trade there. So here's the other thing with.
I saw your Spurs trade. It didn't make any sense for the Wizards for me. Is that a real trade?
Yeah, they get it. I mean, they're just there for like absorbing salary. You get a look at Jeremy Sohan and you get like an
Jeremy Sohan was in that trade. I missed that part.
Yeah. Jeremy Sohan it's the last year of his deal. Like you get a look at him, you get to go to restricted free agency with him.
Of course, you got Marcus Smart for the Wizards.
Yeah. You get 14.
Pervert.
You get 14, but because here's why it was the Spurs, and honestly, this is the big problem the Celtics have, and it's a problem a lot of the best teams have. Celtics are in the second apron. Mm-hmm. They effectively cannot trade with anyone else who's in the second apron, and the people who are going to want these Celtics players are usually second apron teams.
Suns, Wolves, guys. Yeah. Knicks.
And so you need to have like 3 team trades. Like I invented a Porzingis. I gave all the bad salary on the Lakers to the Celtics and gave them Porzingis. But I had to involve someone. So I got the Pistons involved and I put Kleba in the deal because I think he would have like a little bit of, like, I think the Pistons would absorb his $10 million of contract because I think he gives them a little added dimension as like a shooting.
He wouldn't play for them. He stinks.
Maybe, but
they could trade him at the deadline.
Yeah, they could trade him at the deadline, and they got like a second out of it. They like for taking that on. Was the thinking in the deal, but the Porzingis, the idea being like now some might say, Sam, why would you have Luka and Porzingis on the same team when we know that doesn't work?
I forgot about that part. Yeah. Well, just keep in mind, take away reality. This is Sam's mind palace, where all NBA players get benched for his favorite players in the playoffs. So
yeah, exactly. So I had that, and it was like, the Celtics get like fucking like Gabe Vincent and Jared Vanderbilt. And
this is
the Lakers like first.
I don't know if Porzingis has value though, just because
he doesn't. That's the type of trade I'm talking about.
Right? No. You're right. What I'm saying is that like that is almost unfathomable for me for where he was at a year ago.
Yeah,
because it felt like he was legitimately one of the 30 best players in the NBA and like one of the 20 most important players in the NBA.
I think you just have to. I think you have to rip the Band-Aid off and get what you can for him though, because I don't think you can re-sign him. His body is like clearly breaking down. Like, I like he's not going to have. He'll probably actively hurt you next year. Everyone's putting Jaylen Brown trades out there.
Don't you want that? Don't you want to be a little bit worse next year so you have a chance in the lottery? Or are they not going to be bad enough is the question. Are they still going to be a play-in team?
I don't think so, because I think what you do, because everyone was saying like they're going to be, what everyone's forgetting is that Jaylen Brown was like hurt. You do the Oklahoma City Thunder thing where you make up an injury for your player to help the tank. So you just tell Jaylen Brown, here, have 4 months off.
Sure.
Play your first 30 games, get your, he might actually needs knee surgery. He's kind of banged up, but get his surgery, send him off. I mean, you kick the tires on value. I don't think Jaylen Brown's going to have the value that you would need to because that's the thing. Because I think what Celtics fans are like, why would you tear down this championship level team? Porzingis is already dead. Drew,
there are too many moving factors, right? Like by the time Tatum comes back, Drew will be old.
Yep.
Horford's already the fact
he
that
might retire.
I was going to say the fact that he's still good is a miracle.
Yep.
And he's showed a little bit of aging this playoffs.
Sorry, I need to push back on this immediately. I've been extremely consistent in saying the only time when it's a good idea to tank is when you have an injury.
I was going to say, you defended the Sixers this year. You've defended teams like the Pelicans, the Grizzlies last year.
Yes. So the reason I think Sam Presti's a pervert is because he held a healthy Shai Gilgeous-Alexander off of their team instead of being an 8th seed. And went and got Jalen Williams or whatever the fuck they did that year.
It was the Chet Holmgren.
Was it the Chet year?
Yeah. I think he was actually hurt that year, though. I think it was the year before where he was maybe shut down prematurely.
No, there was two. There was another year. There was one of
the Al Horford one is really the one that I think that you never bring up. That is the most blatantly obvious tanking move of the last 5 years. They told Al Horford just to go sit at home, and then he was one of the best players on a finals team the next year.
Yeah, that's true.
Like that is I think Shai might have actually been injured, but I think that Horford was very much healthy, and they decided to go, we're tanking. Please don't help us win too many games, and they ended up with Josh Giddey because of it. Well, that led to Alex Caruso, who's the second best player on their team.
Yeah. So that's kind of the thing is that Drew Holiday, there are teams that would like to have Drew Holiday. I'm sure the Lakers would love to have Drew Holiday, but there's not a trade. There's not a trade there.
Let's think of other Drew teams because I feel like
Wolves would be awesome, but again, it's not a.
Yeah, the Warriors just traded for Jimmy. They can't do it. Drew would be great on the Warriors, but they're too old. I feel like you can't. That's just too much.
You can't have another weird old guy on that team. They already have 3. You can't. And it's basically got to be teams that are making leap. I thought about the Pistons a little bit.
The Rockets feel like a team that would love to have Drew.
Rockets is interesting. I think they want to keep their powder dry with Giannis, though.
They should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Orlando, I thought about.
What's really funny is that Orlando is, remember how we've talked about time and time again, like Orlando like needs a ball handling guard.
Yeah.
But also can't like make their defense bad. Drew would be the one guy that would help their defense, but he's just past the point of being a creator.
Yeah,
he's an off-ball guy now.
Yeah, he's an
which I guess would help a little bit, but like it's just not the kind of guard I feel like they need.
Yeah.
Pritchard to Orlando is a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, Pritchard to Orlando would be. Yeah, that would definitely be like interesting, and that's another. Yeah, like I think these are the buckets I put them into. I think Drew, you do your best to trade. If push comes here, there's the tiers. Porzingis, you have to get him off the team like this. You have to, like, you cannot. He's not going to have any value whatsoever. Like, you have to like trick a team into thinking that he's healthy. If he comes back next season, starts the season with you, and you're like, oh, we can just trade him at the trade deadline, and he gets hurt, you're fucking done. Like, you have to trade. Yeah, I know that he like looked terrible. Everybody saw him looking terrible. Like, you might not get perfect value. I do not care. You have to get rid of him. So that's number one is Porzingis. Next tier down is Drew. You should do your best to get rid of Drew. If there's really like no value out there, hang on to him. And like, I think there's like a decent chance he's still good like next year. And like, maybe you can make that like work. And then the next tier down is Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard to me, where I think you want to keep those guys ideally. But if somebody blows you away with an offer, like if you're getting like way positive value, then I would move on from those guys.
So Brian's saying he thinks that Derek White might have more trade value, and
he would. He definitely would.
And he's 30. He turns 31.
I wouldn't
this summer. I wouldn't trade him either because I think he's one of the clear elite role players that like every team is looking for. Yeah. And also he's still going to be 32, 33, 34. Like I think he's going to be good until he's like 35.
Yeah. I think he's going to be good throughout this contract. Like,
yeah. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
Peyton Pritchard is probably the most interesting, I think, because he's easiest to trade.
Yes.
And also just is coming off a career year. Obviously, Brad Stevens, the bastard, should, be getting away with it. Jaylen Brown is very hard to trade. Jaylen Brown's just too hard to trade, I think.
For the value that you would need.
It would have to be a challenge trade.
Yeah. And I don't think the Celtics are going to have any interest in that because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum like kind of work together. I know Celtics fans like to have a fucking diarrhea disaster every time Jaylen Brown has a bad game, and I know he was bad like last night. I think Jaylen Brown's probably going to be good in Game 5. Maybe not. Maybe the Knicks just throw pressure at him and he turns the ball over 13 times. But I would not be surprised if he had a good game.
The kind of challenge trade you would have wanted was like Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant before Tatum got hurt.
Yeah, and I still don't even really think I would want that. I'm higher on Jaylen Brown than a lot of Celtics fans. I think he's underrated to defend the sin.
Also, but the Celtics fans who wanted to trade for Kevin Durant, are they aware that they literally cannot unless they were to trade Jaylen Brown?
Probably
because the salary matching doesn't work.
Yeah,
I don't even think that would. I think Jaylen might even make more money than KD. I don't even think the Suns could take his contract back.
I think a lot of Celtics fans are operating under the assumption like you have to trade Jaylen Brown because he's going to make the team too good, and the answer is no, you don't.
No,
because I mean, I do think I know what you're going to say. I do think Jaylen Brown like would help the wins, but I just think you just make up a bogus injury. Like
Jaylen is just not a number one option, dude. Like we've seen it in the non-Tatum minutes for years now.
Would you let Jaylen Brown start the year as number one option, see how badly it's going. If it's going great, you tell him, Jaylen, look, you proved everyone wrong. You're such a good number one option. Go to Cancun. We're going to do arthroscopic surgery on you. You're okay now. Like, and here's the other thing. The other thing is like, everyone's like, oh, the Celtics don't need to, like, you're not going to out-tank the 5 worst teams in the East. It's like, yeah. Did we just watch the same fucking lottery? Like,
yeah. That's the thing is that you don't need to be, we literally just saw the 8th team jump up, the 5th team jump up, the 13th team jump up. You just got to you got to be like playing bad and probably lose in the play-in.
even if
I think there's a
Celtics
pathway
are
for
14,
them to be worse, to be honest.
Even if the Celtics are just 14, that's still pretty helpful.
You're like 2 or 3 trades away from being like the 9 to 12 seed in the East, maybe for 1 year.
It's a good draft. If you get in the top 4, you're probably getting like a really good player in this draft.
Dude, if you guys get into the top 3, oh my god. Dude, that top 3 is the best top 3 we've had since like I can't even remember, dude.
We'll see how the college season plays out because I don't want to like
get ahead
of ourselves. Sometimes drafts are like worse or not. But even if they don't jump up, because this is the other thing, and this is what I was talking about at the top of the show. The Celtics did need to do a financial reset. I know everyone loves to say like, oh, like this is the team was paying out the nose. There's a reason the team got sold. And if you go back and you read some of the things, ownership was already laying the things where it's like, there's going to be changes to this team in the offseason. Like there's a lot of
this gives them the free pass, basically. They
don't have
to worry about it now.
They were going to do this anyway. You know what I mean? Like this is the thing.
I don't think it would have been on the same scale as what they could potentially do this offseason, but there was always going to be cost-cutting moves that happened.
Right. Exactly. This was not feasible, and the Celtics did need to do some sort of soft reset. And I think that you need to get more young guys and like draft picks in the door. And I think that's what the Celtics need to do here is that I think they need to get like some of these guys on rookie scale deals to put around Derek and Jason and probably Jalen. I mean, you know, like I think that's still your core 3 as much as like some Celtics fans might not want to hear it, but I think you can retool around that, start bringing in like signing guys. You can use some of these draft picks to like trade if somebody becomes available. You can do another Derek White style trade where you're betting on some young guy that's trying to get like one of the things.
Derek wasn't very young, but yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean though. Like a guy, he was on his rookie scale though.
No, he was on a second contract.
Was he?
Yeah, he had just started it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was like a year before that.
5? He was year 5.
It was year 5 or 6. Yeah. Okay. But he was like 26 or 27 when you guys traded for him, I think.
Yeah.
Which that's the kind of it's the Aaron Gordon, Andrew Wiggins, Derek White. Like there's a PJ Washington, like guys that are in their mid 20s that haven't really figured it out anywhere else.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say like it's like Jabari Smith or Jeremy Sohan, but like a level above that, where it's like a guy that is like very clearly not working where he works now, but like might work on the Celtics in the future.
Yeah. Is it possible for Boston to go from second apron to ducking the tax? Probably not.
No.
But where they're in the repeater, there's huge financial concessions, even if they don't get out of the second like apron.
Well, and there's also the rules where they drop your pick and they have all these like weird rules. And
I bet the goal is to get under the second apron and like get out of all of that stuff.
Someone commented and said Sam Hauser's contract might reach bad contract draft material. Was he that bad this year?
No, he just got hurt. Like, I mean, he wasn't good. Like, he definitely like took a step back.
I was gonna say his previous year was his best year, right?
Yeah, he definitely like took a step back, but he was like fine. Him getting hurt, like he low key kind of changed this Knicks series. That's another kind of
he makes $12 million a year. Like, that's like literally less than the MLE now.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, it might not be a good contract, but
yeah.
It's not going to damage them at all. Like, and they're not going to trade him this offseason because he's at like the nadir of his value. Like he's a guy like you, if it gets hot, like you need to trade him. But I think the Celtics, I think you like need to tank. I think you try to rebuild. I mean, I think you go for getting, because if you get a top 3 pick in this draft and you get like that soft reset, I mean, that is franchise changing. And then, you know, if you
how's this is like James Worthy. How's this? It unironically is like, in a weird way, I know it's, if you want to do like the optimism, like rose tinted glasses, whatever, in a weird way, like you kind of joked about it earlier. You were like, this is a good thing, but like with the direction that the team was headed in terms of like, we're moving into an era where you need to like the Celtics were kind of ahead of the curve with this.
Yeah.
The Celtics were like, have 5 or 6 really good guys at every position, and then a few of those guys just kind of fell off a little bit. Like Porzingis and Drew, like that was already changing the calculus. The Tatum injury obviously completely changes the calculus.
Yeah.
But it does feel like they were going to need some sort of either Brad Stevens scam trade again or some dumb luck in order to fall into this. And obviously you would rather have Jason Tatum. That's not in the middle of the fucking prime. Like it's undeniable that this is a bad thing for the Celtics. But in terms of there's another window that could open in the second half. I don't think Tatum's going to be that affected by the Achilles.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I think
he's not Ja Morant. Like,
he's not like a turbo athlete.
Yeah.
He's huge and skilled.
And even the turbo athlete that had an Achilles tear was Dominique Wilkins had one like towards the end of his career, like late prime. And he still came back and was good. It's the wings tend to not be as affected by this. I feel like this is just someone will be like, "Oh, you're wrong. Actually, this wing or whatever." Like I'm just riffing here. It feels like the Kevin Durant, Dominique Wilkins, Jason Tatum, like kind of guys, like the bigger skilled dudes, don't fall quite as much into that bucket of like it's going to alter their career and ruin them, like it did with like John Wall. Who also, by the way, tore his ACL in like a same time period. So that was just like a disaster.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he had back to back. Like and I just think I honestly like wasn't really joking that much when I said that this is, like obviously you don't want to like, I didn't want this to happen while they were going for championship number 2, but it does kind of give the Celtics the Celtics. I guess my point is the Celtics were going to need a soft reset, if not this offseason, next offseason, no matter what happened. And this gives them the excuse to do it without there being like narratives like, wow, did the Celtics disrespect Jason Tatum this much that they're getting rid of all of his championship?
They're wasting his prime. And
yeah. So we get to, if you want to, Satan loves the Boston Celtics. That's the angle. If you want to,
I'm very much in that boat that I think that this is going to end up being like, and Tatum comes back and is fine a little over a year from now, whenever that season is. And you guys probably get a decent pick next year in the draft. And Stevens makes a few take a step back trades for a year that will benefit you guys in 2 years. I just think that is probably what's going to happen here, but that's also me being a Sixers fan where everything works out for the Celtics. But
I'm doing the kombucha girl face.
DeAndre Ayton.
Like,
hey, if you want to talk about a guy who's on his second contract, that is once again it would be a buy low style situation. The thing is, well, they already had Drew, so they wouldn't want Drew.
We've got great. Boston Gravel and Sand is right next to the TD Garden, and they would be able to go over to his driveway to get rid of any of the ice if he couldn't get to the stadium in time. Do you remember that?
Yeah. He can't drive in snow.
He can't drive in snow. Yeah. So,
well, at least the public transportation is better in Boston than it is in Portland.
For sure.
But what would a DeAndre Ayton trade? Because you guys contract wise, I don't even think you can make that work. They wouldn't want Porzingis. He doesn't play. I mean, DeAndre Ayton doesn't either, really. I think he played more, but
he gives them a different style. Like at least he shoots.
Ayton makes more than Porzingis, by the way, $35 million.
Is that true? Oh my god, that's bad. Yeah, we can't do that then.
Well, they don't need guards. Although I was thinking, what if you did Ayton plus the Portland pick this year, and then a future pick that they own because they have a bunch of picks, Portland, and then you trade them Derek White.
No, Derek doesn't make enough either. That's the problem. It would need to be like Jaylen Brown if he makes 35. Or Drew. I think Drew works.
You can get your own pick back in that trade from the Drew trade, by the way.
Very funny. God damn it.
I mean, look, I think the Celtics, the fact that they owe that swap to the Spurs in 2027, they'll have a year to get this thing right, but the timing could have been even worse in terms of if you don't win the championship the next 2 years, Tatum gets hurt a year from now, and then you're just giving away your pick, and there's no optimism at all about anything long term.
Yeah, I got that wrong. It's 28, not 27.
Oh, it's a 28 swap.
I said 27. I said 27.
You don't have to worry about that at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a 27 swap, but I'm wrong.
I thought it was too. When this is what I'm saying. Things we're gonna have like ups and downs in between that. So like whenever you're trading, that's why you always trade for far out picks. Like I always trade for far out picks. You have no idea what's gonna happen. Like so.
Yeah, I mean, if you have job security,
I'm the opposite of Zach Lowe. Like
everything's gonna be fine.
Everything will be fine.
Optimism pilled Sam.
President G will save us. Like it's fine.
But yeah. Last thing before we get out of here, because we have hit our 2-hour quota here. Oh. I did just want to announce we are joining Blue Wire Podcasts. This is not a joke. This is not a bit. We're actually, I have to like clarify this as
we've done too many sponsor.
Yeah. So this will be our first episode as a part of Blue Wire on the main feed. So if you don't listen on there, check it out. They're going to help us with some advertising, marketing stuff. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we can land one of Sam's favorite sponsors that they work with. We're putting that into the universe.
Yeah.
Little Caesars, come on down.
Yeah, Little Caesars, come on down.
Men's Warehouse for the Tux.
Men's Warehouse. We're getting them in there. Hinge for one of their longest standing customers and least successful.
Yeah. BetterHelp for when the Sixers pick Ace Bailey. I don't know if they work with them. I'm just riffing here. I'm riffing here. Yeah. Indeed, because all of us need a job. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so we're working with Blue Wire. They're going to help us with some of the distribution stuff. They're going to help us with some of the advertising and marketing. So if you're unfamiliar with them, just Google Blue Wire. They have a ton of cool podcasts that I do. Matt Sponhour, who we had on the stream last night, his podcast Stay Hot is part of Blue Wire. They've had a ton of the Spinsters.
Spinsters is another one that is on there. That's Haley O'Shaughnessy's podcast. Mossad took out Trill. They didn't want him talking about Blue Wire. You were saying Spinsters when they didn't want you to hype up Haley.
I was going to say Haley and Harry and yeah. So yeah, go check out Blue Wire if you haven't already. Thank you to them for working with us. They've been great. Ty, shout out to Ty from Bucks Twitter, who also has a Bucks podcast on Blue Wire, the Blue Wire Network. He's been awesome in helping us set everything up. So if you listen on, if you're not listening to this, if you don't want the ads that we're going to have from the Blue Wire episodes, which are on the main feed, sign up for the Patreon. So
yeah, Patreon's the only way around that.
Yep.
So,
all right.
Vamp, not necessarily. Stay tuned. And on that note.
All right. Let's get
out of there. Peace.